Is market movers worth it? That's a question I've asked myself many times, and you probably have as well, because I hear it all the time from you. Well, as an investor, we know that it's not just $50 a month, it's $50 that can be used towards investments that can grow exponentially if we have a winning investment formula. Now, for someone like myself, $50 can buy a lot of underpriced raw cards, but at the same time, we're seeing so much money entering the market that it's going to be very difficult to invest correctly just reading headlines and off of speculation, and we'll need some sort of sales data to help us make the right decisions. But the question remains, is market movers the answer? So in this video, I want to share with you my experience using the tool. I'm going to be very honest and objective. I'll go over the pros and cons and the verdict for me, as well as leave you with a couple questions to ask yourself so you can get clarity if market movers is worth it for you or not. With that being said, welcome back. Now let's get to work. Now, if you're not familiar with market movers, it is an in-depth data tool that tracks all the completed auctions and buy it now sales over at eBay, which you can view in a multitude of ways. Now, this is important because if we're able to visually see trend lines, then we are able to see what's really high, what's really low, and then we can invest in what's low, we could sell what's high, and we can compare one card or one player versus another to find opportunity before everyone else does. And this doesn't just apply to sports cards. That's why stocks have the same type of format. That's why real estate agents use similar types of approaches as well. It's just a way of really visualizing everything that's going on. And this is actually how I've been using CompC since March, where I would look up a specific card or set. I would see what players are overpriced or underpriced. I'd compare them against each other, and then I would look at what's trending and what should be hot next so I could buy in at a low price. Now, CompC is a great platform and tool for raw cards, but eBay is still the juggernaut. And because of that, we've got to study what's going on that platform, because it really does dictate the prices of the whole market. With your membership to Market Movers, you do get access to a private Discord and Facebook group where you can chat strategy and ask questions with other investors that have also invested $50 a month into the tool. I think of it like a little cyber sports card country club, because it is somewhat exclusive, and if you're in that group, if you are paying that money, then you should be pretty serious about investing in cards and probably have hundreds or thousands of dollars at stake. Now, while I love the perk, I have not been active in either group, and that's because there's something about living in Southern California that makes staring at a computer screen more than necessary a subtle form of torture. Another big perk is receiving the weekly email a day ahead of everyone else that's in the $10 a month subscription program. And it goes over cards that they're buying, cards that they're selling, what's trending up. And I've never invested based off of their advice or what they're seeing, but I love the perspective, because when I see the data and the rationale behind it all, I know that I'm becoming a better investor, because they're just talking about concepts like multipliers and things that are even more advanced than what I know right now. So it's more of like a learning tool. Plus, I like the idea of knowing what 500 or 1,000 or 5,000 other people are looking at, so then I can incorporate that into my own investing strategy. Moving on to the tool itself, when you log on, you'll see that it is very clean, it is very bright. They're using a white theme versus a dark theme. And personally, I like the white theme because it's easier to see lines. It's very visible. And a lot of times with programs and software with dark themes, it's too hard to see. But I would like for them to offer both, just for investors that like the darker theme. On the dashboard, you'll also notice your saved players and saved searches. And for me, that's just vital, because anything that I'm paying $50 a month for needs to save me not only money, but save me time as well. I don't want to have to duplicate this process every time I log on. On the left, you'll see a few icons, and under the home page is My Collection. And that is basically where you can put in your own cards and track its growth or track its fall over time. So you know if it's a good time to buy more or to sell off. And at first I thought it was really annoying, because I thought I had to manually enter all the cards. But then later I discovered that under all the cards in their system, you could just click a little plus sign and add it to your collection that way, which is a lot quicker of a process. It's something I'll explore more of as I get further into graded cards, but the next icon is where the fun really begins, because now we could start looking for underpriced cards by player, by the set, or even sealed wax. What's important are all these filters on the left, and the more filters we have, the more we can include the factors and the parameters that we like, and the more we could exclude everything else, so we could really focus on what matters most to us and find trends within there. For example, if you want to invest in Zion Williamson, well, there's a lot of different cards and a lot of different variations of Zion, but the logical question to ask is what card or cards of Zion have the most upside? And so the more filters that we have available to us, the more we can focus in on what is truly undervalued and eliminate the rest. Something else worth pointing out is that there are a few options on the bottom left where you can exclude Probstein and PWCC and some of the sellers, I guess the consignment sellers, that shill bidding is very common for, as well as sellers with low or negative feedback as well. So you want to make sure that the data that is in the system is as accurate as possible, and I don't think there's ever going to be a way for that to be 100% accurate. But any step in the right direction is good, because no matter who you are, if you're using data as an important indicator of how to invest, we got to make sure that the data is accurate. And so I like the effort. I want to see how it improves over the next 6 months and year, and if there's additional ways to make sure that the data is as accurate as possible. Now, the next icon is my favorite, which is player movement. And if you watch my weekly bargain bin videos, that is what I base a lot of that data off of, which is where players are going. Are they trending up or are they trending down? And that gives me good insight as to the mindset and the behavior of investors and collectors, as well as what's on sale, because I like seeing what's been dropping over several weeks, what's entering a low plateau or the lower part of their curve before it starts rebounding and going back up in value. And that's just how I operate. So when I'm able to look at what's been going down for 7 days and 14 and 30 and 60, I can really piece together the market from a macro standpoint. One concern that I've always had is how many cards does Market Movers have in their system? Because I was starting out with low-end raw cards, and if they only have Silver Prism rookie cards in their system, it's not gonna be worth $50 a month for cards that are way out of my budget at this point. When I first started with Market Movers, I remembered it saying 6,000 cards on their confirmation page, but the email said 8,000 cards. And then not long ago, I remember Jeff saying it was up to 10,000 cards. So it's going up really rapidly, and it's also based on what other Market Mover members are suggesting, because there's a little tab where I can request a card, and I think it's somewhere around 7 to 14 days before it enters their system. So obviously they're open to what the members want, because if they aren't open to that, then that's just a horrible business idea. So that number is growing all the time, but if that's a concern of yours, I'm sure it's somewhere over 10,000 at this point. Now, one feature I'm very excited about is the alert feature, which will notify you when a certain card hits a specific threshold, a specific price that you enter into the system. So this way, you can not only track the cards, but when it hits a low price, it'll say, hey, it hit the price, and then you can go in and buy the card because it's low, or you can go in and sell that card because it's high. But it's just a way of, again, saving time and energy and making it more automated, so you don't have to go in and check the system every day or couple days. Now, that all sounds nice and dandy, but if you know me, you know I like being critical but objective. So let's go over my wish list. Pound the like. And the first thing on the wish list is that the interface be a bit friendlier, a bit more intuitive. I don't feel like it's hard to use, but there is definitely a learning curve involved, and it's definitely engineer focused. It's definitely on the strictly functional side. It's definitely not fun to use. It's not highly visual. There's a lot of font. It gets the job done, but I still feel like it could be a bit more presentable. And I remember seeing that it is going through a redesign. The interface will be looking different. So if you're watching this video in a couple months, there's a good chance that they've already switched the interface to look a bit friendlier. Another thing worth noting is that on the left-hand side, you have all these filters, which plays perfectly into the two websites we've been shopping on the most for the last 15 or 20 years, which is eBay and Amazon. So if you think of using eBay or Amazon, you search for new headphones, and now you get to see what has good reviews, what's Bluetooth, what's like name brand, all this kind of stuff, which is great. But what is one filter that both Amazon and eBay have, which really helps us with our search? And that is price range. So many times I've searched Market Movers to compare a few different cards, only to realize that I included a variation of a card, like a silver prism in PSA 10, that just blew the chart out of the water. Like, that card was $3,000, and all the others I was comparing it to was only $300 to $500. And because of that, the chart looks all messed up. You have one card that's way up here, and then you have a bunch of smushed lines at the bottom. And I just want the ability to eliminate that one card, but I can only eliminate that line. If I eliminate that line, the chart doesn't recalibrate. I want that y-axis to be what I want versus it being way out of control and not being able to decipher the trend lines of the other cards. So if I could either put in my own price range, or I could just eliminate a certain card without eliminating PSA 10, that would be great, because maybe the PSA 9 Prism Silver is $500, but if I eliminate the PSA 10, then I'm eliminating all PSA 10s, which means I might be eliminating a Hoops PSA 10, or Select PSA 10, or an Optic PSA 10, where that could be in the price range. But bottom line is, I just want that filter to be able to stick within my budget. All right, so let's talk about price. And the number one complaint I hear about Market Movers is how expensive it is. $50 a month, it's all relative, but for this hobby and for the other tools out there, it's definitely the priciest that I have seen. But just like anything in life, it's never about cost, it's always about value. Number one is, how much will I use the tool? Number two, how much does it benefit me? Number three, what is the cost and capabilities of other tools out there? And number four, what is the opportunity cost of putting that $50 somewhere else? Like I said before, since March, I've been investing in primarily low-end raw cards, in which Market Movers didn't really make much sense to me because I was using ComC as my data tool. Now that I feel a lot more comfortable investing in cards, and I've made a good amount of profit on certain cards based on my strategy, I feel a lot more comfortable scaling up to graded cards and higher end cards overall. So the more I invest in sports cards as a whole, the less $50 a month really is relative to that amount. I remember not long ago, my girlfriend telling me that she was paying $2,000 a month for special access and perks on a stock trading platform. And I almost spit out my water all over her, because I was like, $2,000 a month, that's absurd. But again, it's all relative, and based on her investing and the clients she invests for, $2,000 is well worth it, because it's an investment that brings back way more than the cost. Now, regardless of what kind of investing we're doing, we definitely should be using some sort of data and sales history to determine what price to pay. Because if not, then we're just speculating and assuming it'll go up, when in actuality, we may be overpaying for the card to begin with. PWCC has a great free tool called Market Price Research, where it'll go over eBay sales for, I think, the last 10 years or so. Not like you need to go back that far because the market's so different now, but even just the last 8 months or a year is really nice. And then a site called Card Snoop will show you what the accepted offer price was. So if a listing ends because an offer was accepted, I think eBay will only show you the listed price versus what was actually accepted. And Card Snoop will say, here, they actually accepted a $800 offer, even though the card was listed at $1,100. Now, these tools are great. They're both free and they show you a lot, but because they're very specific and they're simple, you still have to do a lot of the work to piece together all the information in order to spot trends and opportunities. Secondly, I value my time very highly, and I don't have the patience or the desire to dig through cards and piece all this together on my own time if another tool can do it for me at a reasonable cost. If it takes me 3 hours to piece together all this information that a program can put together in 5 minutes, then I've lost 2 hours and 55 minutes of my time that I could put towards generating income somewhere else. So for example, if you make $50 an hour at your job and you can work 5 more hours a month, well, why not just work 5 more hours a month and make $250 rather than giving up all that time doing your own manual research in order to just save $50 a month by not getting a program like Market Movers. It always comes down to opportunity cost. So you gotta do your own math on what your time is worth. But at this point, my time's too valuable to spend more time than I have to researching cards if something else can do that work for me. Now, based on how much free time you have, what income you have, $50 a month could be very little or it could be a lot. And so if you're only targeting a few players and a few cards, you could probably piece together this information yourself without it taking too much time. But if you're really investing a lot into cards and you want to see 10 different players and 20 different cards and you have a lot riding on your investments, then $50 a month is honestly nothing in my opinion. So here is my final verdict. Market Movers is well worth the $50 a month, and that's because I'm investing more and more in sports cards and I want to make sure I have data backing every investment I make. I'm also creating content using Market Movers, which adds an extra upside of value to me. And lastly, because I have an LLC, this should be at least a tax write-off where I get to save a bit more money there. With that being said, this hobby is growing exponentially. It is evolving so fast, and there are other tools coming up where in a year's time, Market Movers might not be what it is. It might not be worth the same amount of money. There may be other tools out there that do the same work, and it's good because it definitely puts pressure on sports card investor to maximize the value that they're offering with these other lower cost tools coming out. So we'll see from there, but at this moment of time, it is well worth it for me. If you're still not sure if Market Movers is worth it for you or not, definitely consider doing a 1-month trial. I personally wish Market Movers had a 24-hour or 48-hour trial period for free, just so we could explore the program and see if it's worth it for us now or maybe in the future. And I know personally I would have signed up for Market Movers earlier if I had a 24-hour trial just to get familiar with what the program offered. Maybe they'll offer that in the future, but at worst case scenario, it's $50, and I think if you use a promo code, it'll be $40. Just try it out for a month, then at least you know it's worth it, it's not worth it, and then you can move on from there. If you have Market Movers, I'd love to hear from you, especially if you have any suggestions as to what could make the tool even better. This would be great feedback for not only Jeff and Sports Card Investor, but for the other tools out there that are looking to compete and offer the most amount of value to us. So let me know in the comments section below. To see how I use Market Movers to spot trends, click this video up here where I go over the players and cards that have dropped the most over the last 7 and 14 days to see who's on sale. I'll see you over there.